This Is My Happy Face. That's the title track from the latest album from a gentleman from Finland who is joining us right now. Tom Tikka, come on in and say hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing great, Tom. So glad to have you here with us. What part of Finland are you in?
I'm in Helsinki. And
Helsinki?
Yeah. It's south of Finland, the capital.
That's one that I've heard of, yes. I remember that from high school, as a matter of fact.
Well, you know, occasionally remember it because it's got the word hell and sin in it. So
Yes, right. Well, you weren't supposed to say that, but
oh, sorry.
Listen, so glad to have you here with us. I know that there's a story that goes with a lot of songs. Most songs have some kind of a story, but you have a story behind this particular song and perhaps the entire album. Tell us about This Is My Happy Face.
Well, the song is about white middle-class male and, you know, being lost in the world. I think that the reason why I wrote it was that we live in a world where we're basically we're very concerned about, you know, human rights, and I am too. Everybody should be. But yet at the same time, I've often felt that, you know, even if the white middle-class male has everything going great for him, he still needs support every once in a while. And I think that's, you know, being part of that group, I find it sometimes very, very difficult to walk up to somebody and say, like, look, I'm sad. I need a shoulder. I don't think men do that. And especially when, you know, we'll go back 10 years when I got divorced, I realized that really when you start negotiating, at least in Finland, you know, when you start negotiating who has the kids when and custody issues and what have you, you know, it's a system that favors women, and it's very difficult for men to get heard. And also to things that I think, you know, should basically be improved. And so when I sat down and I needed a title track for the album, I thought that I'll write a song that's a little bit more poetic than well, you know, not all the songs in the album because some of them are, but poetic in the sense that you know, the imagery that you have is a little bit more artsy there, and that's really what the song is about. It's saying that, look, I get it. The plight of the white middle-class male is not the most pressing issue in the world, doesn't even make top 200, but we do need help and support every once in a while, and I'm sort of sick and tired that we're not allowed to ask for it.
Absolutely. I can relate, and I'm sure John and most of our listeners can too, because most of us were brought up in a time and period when it was looked down on. Men just did not show their weaknesses. It wasn't the proper thing to do, and I can understand where you're coming from, and believe me, I get your point. John, you had a question.
Well, yeah, just more of a comment than anything else, but I can remember, you know, the day, like you said, you know, the alpha male, the strong shoulder to cry on, you know, honey, I'm home, where's my dinner? In the old black and white days. But the thing that really kind of frosts my butt these days, and there's been a trend now for probably about 15 years, portraying a man as a bumbling idiot in commercials, in television programs, you know, certainly in sitcoms, but and to a degree in dramas on TV and in movies. And, you know, I personally myself, I think it's offensive as all get out.
I mean, and if you think about romantic movies as well, you know, it's kind of weird. You know, just pick any. There's a woman who behaves badly and just makes somebody's life hell, a guy's life hell. And at the end of the day, he just smiles and, you know, just everything's fine.
Yeah.
And you know, but then again, it's, you know, I'm scared to even say this stuff. You know, that's why I'm trying to find the right words, because, you know, if you say the wrong thing, then people are going to crucify you and say that.
In this day and age of social media, you know, it's really easy to get crucified by people that you don't even know. have negative comment after negative comment piled on top of you, and it's one of those things. Well, I can be as bold as I want to, because this is an anonymous person who I will never ever meet in my life, and if they ever did and they said something like that to the person's face, the chances that this person saying that would have their face adjusted is pretty good. But anonymously, they can get away with it.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but just like you said about the movies, and then I sort of added that angle in. But I mean, if I think just the song also was born out of the fact that I remembered I was down one day, and I remembered all the times that I had been told by women, relatives as well, that you're a man, tough it out. Imagine if you walked up to your wife or some female relative and said that you're a woman, tough it out. Mm-hmm. You couldn't do that. You wouldn't do it. It would be it would feel completely inappropriate. But yet again, even these days, I think sometimes the question of equality, it's kind of it's become topsy-turvy a little bit in some issues these days.
Yeah, I agree. In many respects, the more we try to achieve what we perceive as equality, the more unequal we become.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be a self-defeating prophecy in that respect. Now, you touched on your past. You mentioned your divorce and what's gone on in the past. For our listeners who are not familiar with Tom Tikka, tell us a little bit about your past, where you come from musically, how you got to where you are now.
That's a long story. I started playing guitar when I was 6. And my parents were music fanatics. There was always music on. I've got this very vivid memory of my dad coming home on a Friday night or every Friday, and he'd pour himself and my mom a stiff drink, and then the records would come out. The Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and we'd just listen to music all night. And that's really how that was my education to music, listening to those albums. And he'd been a merchant marine in his youth, so he had all these international versions of, for example, the Beatles' Revolver or the King's first album. I remember the Revolver was sort of a weird Brazilian version, and then we had the Italian version of the King's first album. And that was part of that, those Friday nights. We just didn't listen to we listened to the music. He was explaining it to me, but he was also telling me sailor stories, which port he got the record from, and, just some of those stories were pretty wild. So, but I mean, that's how I got, so yeah. So when I was 6, I asked my parents to get me a guitar, and that's little by little I started learning the basics, and probably must have been 7 when I wrote my first song, and really that's where it all started. And then I was 16 when I got my first recording contract, and nothing came out of that, and then 21 when I got my sort of my first official one that I actually signed, and then an EP was released. But little by little, learned to write, learned to sing.
Gotcha. Now you signed. You've had some experience breaking into the business, quote unquote. What's the music business climate like in Finland for an indie artist?
I don't release the stuff in Finland at all anymore. So
really.
I work with them. No, not at all. I work with MTS Records. That's an American label, and so I release hubcap stuff through MTS, and then FBP Music Group, which is based out of Frankfurt, Germany, releases the Impersonators. So the Carmen Gray was signed by Sony BMG in Finland, and that was 2005. And that's obviously when the songs, Carmen Gray's tracks played on the radio here, and I was very much part of what was happening. I kind of knew what was happening here, what was hot, and, the radio station and what have you, all the people who worked there. But then again, after Carmen Gray folded and the Impersonators were born, and I turned a new leaf, I never looked back. We had I had the hits in Finland already that one can have, and I wasn't gonna travel. This is awful because if somebody from Finland is listening, I didn't want to go around the country, the time. There was I'd done it, and then I just that's hence I contacted SBP Music Group in Germany, and then a little bit later Michael Stover in the States. Thought of more interested in those markets.
Sure, and Michael is a good man. We've been working with Michael for several years now, and very happy to work with him, and also talking with his artists. They have nothing but good things to say for him. He keeps racking up all these awards around the world, so he can't be doing anything. He can't be doing a lot wrong, and he's definitely doing a lot.
No,
he's
amazing.
We really have a lot of respect for Michael. I'm glad you were able to connect with him. I think you have a good pairing going there. Now, before we run out of time, which is rapidly approaching, I'm told, I want to give you a chance, as we do all of our guests, to sell yourself and your product. Tell the folks how they can find you, follow you, get in touch with you, and, of course, most importantly, buy your music.
If you like retro-flavored pop rock, bands like Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Beatles, the Rolling Stones, a little bit of Aerosmith there probably, the Beach Boys harmonies, you should check out my stuff. You can find the stuff on all streaming platforms, and if you want to find out about my career or what's coming next and what's happened, just go to www.tomtikka.com. It's got all the information that you possibly you need to know. It's all there. The music videos, the lyrics, everything you'll find on those web pages.
Fantastic. And for those of you listeners who can't read the print on your radio or your internet receiver, that's Tom Tikka, Tikka. And
like Indian curry paste.
There you go.
But it's finished for a woodpecker. So yeah.
All right, Tom, we've got just a few moments left here. We're going to have to wrap this up, and I wanted to give you a chance to introduce this next track, or at least tell us very briefly about it, because this is your newest release. This is a world premiere for a podcast program, and we want to give you a chance to introduce By 2022.
It's my New Year's song. I thought that I'm always trying to look for a new angle. So when I sat down to write it, I thought that'd be nice to write a song, sort of a song that could be interpreted as a love song, but really I'm singing it to the year 2022. And so I wanted to try that. It's almost like a letter that you write to the new year, and it turned out real well. I think it had the lyrics of the Old Lang Syne in the outro, or under the last choruses, and all sorts of things that I experimented with. There's a really cool sort of a middle 8-bit with the bass. I like the bass melody there, and I'm very proud of that. But it's a track, basically the main message is I'm hoping that 2022 will be a whole lot better than 2021 was. And not that I had a bad year, I had a great year, but, one tends to always only look at the negative stuff. My dad used to say, and he was a merchant marine, and he used to say that, when I was complaining, he says, "Are you alive?" I said, "Yeah." Well, then you're doing good.
Amen.
So it depends on your point of view.
We've got to take the time to appreciate what we do have instead of dwelling on what we don't have. And we're